The fact that the MOU is so obviously lopsided in Iran's favor is paradoxically a reason why I don't think we will see, or I don't anticipate, a return to full-fledged war. There was a phrase that President Trump used in the context of Israel and Lebanon a few weeks ago. You may recall, he said, a ceasefire in this region is when the two sides are shooting at each other a bit less. There was a truth to that, I think, and there's a truth to that in this context as well, which is that what we're seeing here with Iran attacking ships and the United States striking back is a kind of skirmishing. They're feeling each other out to say, I don't want you to take license with this MOU, but I don't want to walk away from it. And by the way, I think that applies to Iran as well, not just because of the inducement of the MOU and the fact that it gives them very substantial sanctions relief, but also their own economy is in serious, serious trouble that is masked by some of this diplomacy. So, look, keep your eye on the ball. I think there are talks in Islamabad, Pakistan, tomorrow between the U.S. and the Iranian teams. And I still think diplomacy will be restored. I don't think we're going to see a slide back into anything like the scale of fighting that we saw just a few months ago. I think that's quite unlikely still.
You know, Willie, it's so curious watching the president go along with this MOU for a while. This is, Donald Trump loathes weakness in his political opponents, and when he sees weakness, people flattering him, he drills down harder and harder and harder. It's the same thing with Iran. They exploit the weaknesses of American presidents, whether it's Jimmy Carter worried about his upcoming election with Ronald Reagan, or whether it's Donald Trump worried about the midterm. So you had the lifting of oil sanctions, the most liberal lifting of oil sanctions in Iran since 1979. They make billions and billions of dollars, not required to do anything in return. And they saw that as weakness. So they just ran over us. And so now the president's pushing back. But where does that end?
Yeah, and the president has been bored with this war, let's just be honest, for months and months and months. He thought it was going to be quick. He thought it would bring Iran to its knees with the early military campaign, perhaps topple the regime. Remember, on the day after this began in late February, he said the people need to rise up in the streets against the dictatorship in Iran, to which they said, we just tried that a couple of months ago, and about 30 or 40,000 of us were murdered. So all of this was known, except apparently to the people around the president. And so, Peter Baker, if you listen to President Trump, even just this week at the NATO summit, railing against the JCPOA, the Obama-Iran deal, going into great detail, regaling stories of the pallets of cash, which pales in comparison to the amount of money proposed in this MOU that would go directly into the leadership of Iran, that $300 billion investment fund, for example. So where does this White House feel it is right now when its only recourse is to bomb more targets, and Iran really not caving the way it would, except to attack our neighbors, our Gulf allies?
Yeah, we're kind of in the stasis period, neither full war nor peace. And there's no likelihood, or this doesn't seem like there's likelihood that that's going to change in a decisive way anytime soon, right? It could go on like this for quite a while. You neither have a full resolution of it. At the same time, you leave forces in the region and flex your muscles from time to time and try to keep Iran off balance. But the truth is, Iran sees the political clock here at home just like we do. They understand what's happening here in terms of the midterm elections, and they have an incentive to kind of drag this out a little bit, because that inflicts more pain on President Trump and his party potentially going into the fall.
Yeah, I've been reporting on that this week as well. I mean, Peter's exactly right. The president does not want a resumption of full-on hostilities. Yes, there will be these skirmishes. Yes, some targeted bombings. But to what end? There's not really much damage left to be inflicted on Iran in terms of military sites. It would require a real escalation to make a difference. And Trump doesn't want to do that, but he's left with a pretty bad hand. The midterms are rapidly approaching. And Mike Barnicle, we're at this moment now. This can't be said enough. The hardliners in Tehran, even with a missing supreme leader, are more empowered now than they were at the start of the war, in particular because they control the Strait of Hormuz. And as we've been talking about this week, that is simply unacceptable to the Gulf allies, the U.S.'s Gulf allies, those in the region who remind those in the administration that the Strait of Hormuz before the war was open and free to use for all. And now Iran continues to note that's their point of leverage. They're going to insist upon fees or tolls or whatever they're going to call it. And those in the region who have frankly borne the brunt of the Iranian assaults are saying, and now we're going to pay them to rebuild?
The Iranians have already won. They've already won. We do this every day. We talk about this every day. Hot war, cold war, on again, off again. Let's not go to Spain ever again. Things like that. It's the level of exhaustion, frustration, and chaos for the last decade, really, in American government. You can feel it out there on the streets, in supermarkets, at gas stations. You can feel the American public carrying that level and wondering about it. And David French, I'm wondering whether you think that level of frustration that is out there among the American public, we've been carrying a load for a long, long time. I don't know where this goes, but it's out there.
Yeah, I think at this point, it's pretty clear that everyone except basically the core MAGA base now is over Trump. And even that core MAGA base is beginning to whittle away just sort of step by step by step. I mean, look, Trump from the beginning put himself in a box. He sold himself this war. Perhaps even the war was sold to him as sort of a Venezuela 2.0. He's said this again and again and again. He keeps talking about Venezuela. He thought he was buying another 24-hour, 48-hour sort of fabulous victory where he's able to shape a nation with a very quick and lightning strike. And then when that didn't happen, he began to pursue, he was immediately sort of over the conflict. He wanted to end the war, but he also wanted to declare victory. And that put him in this box negotiating with Iran. This put him in a box now. He wants this over, but he also still wants to declare victory. Those are not compatible goals as long as Iran stays in the fight. And that's why Iran's strategic position just keeps improving, even though, you know, it is taking serious damage from American forces. Overall, its strategic position improves, in large part because Trump's political position is so incredibly weak.
Although, I mean, Shashank, yes, Trump's position is politically weak here, but in some ways, I guess the question is, has he got away with this more than we think he might have done? Gas prices are coming down. They never went to $150 or $200 a barrel. The IMF is just revising its downward forecast for the global economy a little bit less. Asian countries do seem to have weathered the storm. Now, if we are in, as Peter is describing, this period of stasis going forward, what are the repercussions for Donald Trump? Has he actually managed to get away with this more than the predictions might have been just 2 or 3 months ago?
Yeah, I think there's a really interesting distinction there, isn't there, Cathy, between the political ramifications and the strategic ones? Because politically, what he did avoid is the temptation to double down and escalate in a big way. For example, you know, we were discussing the possibility of ground operations against Hague Island or a full-fledged amphibious assault on Iran's Persian Gulf coast. And you could argue that, unlike previous presidents who doubled down on major land wars in the Middle East, rolling the dice in pursuit of victory, which never came, he's avoided that temptation. He's avoided the apocalyptic scenarios on gas prices. He's avoided mass American casualties through a land invasion. And all of that speaks to some degree of restraint and more sensible decision-making, knowing when to pull away from the brink. And that could limit the scale of damage he incurs come the midterms in November, though I personally doubt it will be enough to save him from very serious bruising. But what I don't think that will save him from is the loss of American prestige and standing. That is profound. What's happened is it has been demonstrated visibly and globally that America neither has the ability nor the stomach to reopen the Strait of Hormuz by force. It means that the Iranian sword of Damocles, these missile forces, drone forces, will hang over that region. The Memorandum of Understanding even commits America to withdrawing forces from the vicinity of Iran, which is a very ambiguous sentence. I think it means naval forces, carriers, but it could be interpreted by the Gulf states in other ways. And the impact on allies, on perceptions of American power, I believe that will be lasting and generational. And I think that you can't run away from that.